This brief presentation on the literary elements in All the Names by Jose Saramago will help you to understand this week's reading assignment so that you can discuss it in depth in our 2 discussion forums. You must use at least one direct quote from the literary work and at least one direct quote from a literary expert in the 4 discussion posts that you write. The recommendations for further study folder will help you start your research. Let's begin the presentation with the author's background. Jose Saramago was born in 1926 in Portugal. His career included work as a writer, a newspaper journalist, an employee in a publishing company, and a translator. He received honorary degrees from universities in Italy and Spain, and he spent a lot of time living in Spain. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1998. His major works include Blindness and All the Names. He died at the age of 87 in 2010. The setting for this novel includes his workplace. It's a maze-like bureaucratic structure called the Central Registry of Births, Marriages, and Deaths. His home, the main character, who also happens to be called Jose, representing, of course, every person, every man, his home is a flat that's directly connected to the central registry by a connecting door. And there's a close connection between the work and the home because Jose sneaks back into the workplace at night. It's easy to do because it's just through the connecting door. But there's also a tremendous lack of privacy. For example, if the main character becomes ill, he's concerned because the registrar will send a doctor in to see him, and the doctor will just show up. He has a key and he can just walk right in. So Jose is... It's somewhat like the British novel 1984, where has the feeling that he's always being watched. He has to hide things very carefully because he takes things from the workplace that he should not have, and then he has to conceal it in the home. And the fact that they're directly next to each other makes it more complicated. The time and place is an unspecified time in an unnamed city, but it's often considered to be a version of Portugal's capital. And it's somewhat of a futuristic society with the way everyone is watched and the way it's a bit on the unreal side, but there's nothing in it that would be strange or, quite frankly, that could possibly not happen in the future or now. Jose's occupation is a clerk. His lifestyle is it's a lonely existence with no family relationships. He's not divorced, he's not widowed, he hasn't had children. He's just this lonely person who becomes obsessed with the details of celebrities' lives because he basically has no life of his own. The religious beliefs are conflicted. It is a religious story. You can see the even the cover of the book. It looks like he's rising up as he's moving toward heaven. The culture is a faceless society. The citizens are faceless and they're treated as statistical records. There's a definite loss of humanity. The characters are Senor Jose, a lonely clerk obsessed with the statistical records of celebrities; the registrar, a seemingly distant and uncaring administrator who takes a personal interest in his clerk for some reason. It's not really typical of this society, but it happens. The unknown woman is the 36-year-old divorced mathematics teacher who inspires Senor Jose to stalk her until he learns the truth. He accidentally carries into his own home her records, and then he becomes obsessed with her. She's not a celebrity. He didn't mean to take her record into his home, but once it got there, it became an all-consuming goal, an objective to find out what happened to her. There's the godmother of the unknown woman. She's a former neighbor who agrees to talk to Senor Jose. The themes are the ironic connection between identity and anonymity. There's an obsession and desperation in a surreal society where there is a universal and unsatisfied need for connection with humanity. There's a theme of uncertainty of knowledge and facts, what is really true and what is not. And we see this at the end of the novel. Jose goes to a graveyard and he thinks that he's looking at one person's grave, and then he finds out there's a shepherd who, for no reason at all, switches the names around. So even at the end, when he would have thought that he could pin down some knowledge, some facts, he can't do that. And there's also compassion ultimately ruling human behavior. The plot is not difficult to follow as far as the facts of what is happening, but the writing style, there's a sense of surrealism throughout the novel, and the lengthy paragraphs and the lengthy sentences sometimes make it difficult. There is not a lot of dialogue. When there is dialogue, Jose could be talking to the ceiling, which represents God looking down on him. And if there is dialogue between people, there aren't the quotation marks and the tags, the he saids and she said. So although it isn't hard to understand the events that are happening as events, it can be hard to read and figure out what those events are. Senor Jose lives a solitary existence in a flat connected to the central registry where he works. People exist as names and statistics written on cards. His job is to separate cards of the living and the dead. His only hobby is to collect information about celebrities. When he becomes obsessed with the card of an unknown woman, he interviews her former neighbors and breaks into a school where she had worked. His obsession causes him to develop an identity in a society that requires him to be anonymous. When he thinks he has found the woman's grave, he learns that a shepherd changes the names on the graves. In the end, the aloof registrar displays compassion toward Jose in his quest to solve the mystery of this unknown woman. There's a lot of symbolism. Obviously, when you have Nobel Prize-winning authors, you expect that their words are going to have great significance. Names, but also lack of names, are symbolic. Senor Jose is the only character with a name, but it is a generic name that means nothing. Settings are also symbolic. The maze-like setting of the central registry symbolizes the quest that Senor Jose undertakes as he searches for the unknown woman. His search has twists and turns. When he thinks he has information, he often finds it is false. For example, the shepherd who changes the names at the grave sites. The point of view and the writing style is particularly intriguing. Writing in the third person, Jose Saramago composes long sentences and paragraphs in a running narrative of surrealistic events. The quotation marks and tags, example, the he saids, are missing, making the dialogue difficult to follow. In addition, the main character may be talking with the ceiling, representing God, looking down on him. The characters are faceless, but the descriptions of physical objects and locations are detailed. The narrator appears to be telling a detective story, but that voice also sounds like it is speaking from beyond the grave. As I mentioned, every sentence has a lot of meaning. So the recommendations for further study folder will help you start your research this week. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help you.